Seekers. This is Blake coming to you live from New Mexico, and joining me as always from Washington State, it's Britt and Cody. How's it going, guys?
Good evening, everyone. I'm doing all right. I'll paint you I'll paint you a quick picture of how my evening's going. Cody had a late lunch and he was like, "Oh, I don't need dinner tonight." So I was like, "Oh, cool. I've been craving a quesadilla. I'm gonna make a really good like chicken bean loaded quesadilla for dinner. Make it. It's wonderful. Eat it." And afterwards, Cody's like, "Oh, did you use those tortillas that were in the pantry?" I'm like, "Well, yes, of course I use those tortillas." He's like, "Oh, those are super high fiber, low carb, like some weird fangled tortilla. You got like what, 20 grams of fiber in each tortilla? Holy smokes."
Because I made the same mistake a few nights ago, and I did the math on it afterwards. And between the can of beans and the one tortilla, it's 50 grams of fiber. Yo.
My stomach hurts so bad.
You have to put a graphic warning on this podcast episode.
Yeah, keep an eye out when you're buying tortillas. There's all sorts of weird tortillas out there now, apparently.
It'll sneak up on you.
A weird fangled tortilla. Okay.
How's everyone doing in March Madness?
I don't know. I haven't looked too closely. I think I'm 5th place right now, but I haven't looked after the weekend games yet.
I have a fighting chance in one league still. I have Michigan going all the way, thanks
Nice.
to my day one TTI pick of Michigan based off of the mittens. So I'm pleased. I'm pleased I have a fighting chance still.
You're a vibes player.
Good vibes. Yes, for sure.
All right. Should we dive into the news? Since I think this is going to be a chock full episode. We'll try to keep it under 2 hours. Sorry, everybody. Or you're welcome, everybody. All right. News today. Supposedly, Jon Collins-Black released a letter at Seeker Summit convention this weekend. Are you guys aware of that? And have you read the letter yet?
I've read the letter.
You have. Cody, this is the first you're hearing of it?
It is the first I'm hearing of it. I've been very busy this week, preoccupied.
Yeah, so it was like 3 days before the conference. I believe it was Jenny from Mysterious Writings and I think Emma and Jam, the organizers of Seeker Summit, they were releasing like a little nugget every day of what's happening leading up to the con. And 3 days out, they said JCB has written a special letter to be read at the conference that contains the keys to solving the treasure. That's not an exact quote. Keys for treasure hunting. So for those who haven't seen it or weren't aware of it, I'm just going to read it myself so that everybody can hear it, if that's all right with you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Good day, treasure seekers. I hope this message finds you well. I am left only trying to imagine the air of brilliant and tantalizing energy pulsating through the attendees right now. A B on a pistol. The level of enthusiasm from people like yourself is a constant source of joy for me. Thank you for that. Thank you for being you. Jenny asked me to express what I feel are the most important lessons I shared within my book, There's Treasure Inside. Surely this is an impossible question to answer, but I will point to at least 3 things today. First and foremost, I challenge you to persevere. Perseverance will be one of the biggest challenges for some of you because you were born with a blessing. You burn hot. You have passion. You remember the thrill of discovering the unknown as if you were still 6 years old. because that feeling of wonder never left you. But the hottest flame can also melt the wick. What shines brightest and fastest can sometimes more easily burn out. So how do we persevere? One way to persevere is to always rely on inspiration. Ask for it, seek it out, pray for it. Be a connoisseur of inspiration. Drink it up. What makes you happy? Follow those things because inspiration most likely rests within them. Inspiration invites new perspectives, new relationships, new hopes, and new dreams. Inspiration will be the engine for your perseverance. And gratitude is the fuel for that engine. Practice gratitude, and you've already won. Gratitude is absolute in its victory. Give praise for your loved ones, for your health, and for your ability to be here around these other sparkling people at this event. Celebrate when you get a blister. Let it remind you of all the places where you have no blister. Celebrate a flat tire and your lost bag. Let it remind you of all the trips you've taken that went off without a hitch. Appreciate the beauty of the hike on the way to finding a treasure box. Then enjoy it even more, in italics, when you walk back out empty-handed. Simply give thanks for the opportunity to hunt, because at the end of the day, when you've become an expert in gratitude, your perseverance will be limitless, and that will bring you immeasurably more joy. Yours in the hunt, Jon Collins-Black. Reactions.
Wow.
Reactions.
Went off without a hitch. I mean, I want to hear Cody's initial reactions because this is your first time being exposed to the letter, Cody.
Yeah, my initial reaction is it definitely feels like there's a lot of reuse of language from the book, which is kind of a two-edged sword, right? Because on one hand, it's like, is he emphasizing these aspects of the book? Or on the other hand, this is just his standard language that he uses? So it kind of, I don't know. It's interesting, but in a way that pulls you in two different directions at the same time that are kind of polar opposite. So that's probably my main takeaway. I thought the line, thank you for being you, is interesting because of what I'm going to talk about later in this episode. We'll segue into that. But yeah, other than that, it seems like he took inspiration, if you will, from a lot of the kind of key takeaways of the book, narrative wise, and kind of modeled that back up in my mind. There wasn't a ton that stuck out to me that was like, oh, I need to dive into this further.
Yeah, I'll be interested to know if he sends an email to everybody on his mailing list or posts that message on his website at all. I'll be more interested in the content of that letter if he widely distributes it. If we don't hear anything from official JCB channels, then I'm not putting much stock into that.
Well, how does that take kind of influence your thoughts on the TreasureCon interview? Because he never like formally issued a recording of the Treasure. Obviously, Calazars are like the leading channel where a lot of people get their information, but it's still different than JCB releasing it himself.
I believe he did email everybody the link to the interview.
Oh, but so he linked to theirs. Okay.
And I think it's on his website as well, I'm assuming. I actually haven't checked. You know that information,
Yeah.
Bryn?
He made everyone aware of the interview, that it's not like, yeah.
He called attention to it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the main things, I mean, we've had this conversation before, right? About like his emails, and it's what does JCB call a clue versus, I can't.
More than once we have, yes.
Yeah, so we don't need to have the conversation again, but I think like the most interesting things that stuck out to me were like pulsating because of like this heart theme, the fire, melting, shining, sparkling people because of
Sparkle even
sparkle
as you pine.
even as you pine. And then selfishly went off without a hitch because of the Pokemon box. So, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of carryover language, if you will, from the book. I'm sure a lot of that is intentional, whether or not, you know, I don't think JCB would be calling any of these things clues, but I do think, in a sense, that they are kind of carried over from the book. They are almost hints in that way. I think that would be fair, but they're not like there's now 55 hints or clues in the JCB list. Nothing like that.
Agreed. I mean, it feels the same vein of his 1-year anniversary email where he's talking about weaving and things like that. Weaving wasn't necessarily in this one, but you're right that other language and themes throughout the book are definitely included in this messaging. More discussion later. I haven't checked out the Discord to see if anybody's picked it apart yet, but interesting nonetheless. All right, should we dive into Horseshoes and Hand Grenades? Maybe. There it is. Bryn, do you want to start with Horseshoes and Hand Grenades today?
Yes, you can go ahead and pull up my slide. And I will start by, oh, sorry, it's the Pokemon, I forget what I call it. Circle of Life, something
cycles,
like that.
Life cycles.
I told Cody I was going to talk about this on the podcast today, and he was like, well, you're going to give this away? I'm like, well, I've started kind of just talking about Pokemon Box as much as I can now. I've been trying to put stuff out there with the Pokemon Box Minute. And he's like, well, this is like the first real thing. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I don't think that's how I phrased it.
I think you said this is the first real thing.
Okay, I don't think I said this is the first real thing. I think I was just expressing that I was very excited about this one.
You were.
Also, I've always been like the biggest advocate of like, if we find anything, I just want to talk about it on the podcast. Like that's always been my thing. I was surprised because I felt like it was such a good find. I thought you'd want to sit on it for a week or two and dig into it a little bit before you released it, because you normally like to let it mull around in your head a bit before you release it to the public.
Like to hoard my thoughts.
I would say you like to polish your theories, whereas I just like to as soon as something enters my mind, I'm like, here's what I'm thinking. Very rough.
I think everything I think about Pokemon box is so rough at this point because I'm just so, I don't know. I think I'm in it too deep, honestly. Like I'm thinking about it probably too creatively at this point. And I have found that I feel like I have the best connections when I'm not even trying to think about it. So I try to think about it less. And so this came to me when I was working out. And actually, Blake and Cody were both like, this is the most excited that you guys have been about anything that I've relayed with Pokemon Box. I think it's good, but I'm not like over the moon. So anyways, I want to share it with the community, see if this helps progress anything. But if we talk about like the Pokemon Box theme or a theme of the Pokemon Box, maybe as like evolution, which makes sense with Pokemon, like the Pokemon you evolve in the game to grow and evolve into a stronger, more capable form of themselves, as quoted in the chapter. So I think we see a lot of instances of this idea of life and growth throughout the chapter as well. So I'm going to start by going through a few of these little categories of some clues that I think could fall into these ideas. And then I want to get into the idea of spawning specifically after that. So if we look for themes of birth or origins in the chapter, we have lines like seedling of an idea or seeds of inspiration. I believe seeds of inspiration was like part of the part 2 introduction. So kind of looping that in here because I think maybe this is the box that it fits with. Pokemon Red and Pokemon Green were born. mother raccoon and her 2 offspring. We have the scrambled eggs and the hatchback, so potentially 2 instances of eggs here. Pokemon originated from Japan. We have Frog Bear and Could Barely Sleep. This one's more of a stretch, but it's just something with like bear a child. It could also then be bore, like you bore a child. The parents were lost in some boring conversation. So that one's a stretch, I will say that. But then we get into the idea of generations. Of course, this was a multi-generational family road trip. We had the grandparents, we had the parents, we had Jon. And I think he really wants to emphasize this by saying, my dad and his father. Like, we are really emphasizing the generation in their family there. When we talk about growth, we have fascination grew quickly. And then, of course, grow and evolve into a stronger and more capable form. So all along, I've been thinking about like, well, what does this mean as far as trying to get a physical location on a map with this idea of birth and growth? And so when I was working out, I was thinking through the line of the Froakie and the Greninja clapped feverishly in response. And for some reason, response, I was like, respawn is like a video game term, right? So I'll just start at the top here and kind of walk through my thought process. But if you think about Pokemon Go, which is a huge part of the Pokemon Box chapter, spawning is the most important Pokemon Go game mechanic. Like, spawning is literally where the Pokemon Go characters are showing up, where you're going to be looking for them. That is the whole mechanic around you finding these Pokemon out in the wild. Spawning, just as a little debrief here, is the mass release of eggs in an aquatic environment. So we kind of pull on this egg theme if we have hatchback, and scrambled eggs could just be another hint at eggs itself. And then, of course, an aquatic environment. We know we are looking for a river. We are looking for water type because of Froakie. So then I looked at like, what are some animals that spawn in real life? And it just so happens to be fish. So we have sea keen, we have Magikarp, we have crustaceans. I always thought it was weird that he threw in the crawdad. We have amphibians, which is Froakie, the salamander, the toads that he's mentioning. And then all sorts of like insects that he mentions in the chapter. These are all insects that would spawn as well. I've picked up on this theme throughout the chapter where he keeps talking about back. So he, in this road trip as an adult, is going back to the original route of his road trip as a child. The story picks right back up at the jazz bar, or he picks the story back up at a jazz bar. The story as a child ends at the jazz bar. Froakie leaves and comes back. Jon runs off and then ends up coming back. We have hatchback, trek back, backpack, jump back, circle back, shrug back. Like the list goes on and on for all the back references in this chapter as well. So then I thought, like, is this hinting at the idea of respawning in like this video game sense and a real life sense, returning back to this origin point? And I really thought that maybe hatchback was our biggest nod to that being an indication, because you're hatching back at a location. So I don't know. That was kind of my maybe light bulb moment.
Cowboy riding a lightning bolt moment.
That's exactly what I'm saying. No. So I don't know. We were trying to talk through like, what could this possibly mean? We were like, a hatchery. But like, even if it is something like a hatchery or some sort of other origin point, I don't think this is like the solve for the chapter. I think it could be a part of it. And I do think there is a big enough theme here that it could be something significant. So what do you guys think? Is there next steps we can take here?
Woody, you want to go
Yeah,
first?
I'll start by saying that I just really like it in general. A lot of the stuff on the left-hand side of the screen are things that you'd been talking about for a while now, the birth, origins, generations, growth stuff. But when you connected those dots and sent out the very long text about spawning, I was excited about that one in a way I haven't been as excited about some of them in a while. I like a lot of it. I really like the hatchback. I really like the wordplay of clapped feverishly in response. That just feels like so satisfying if that is a nod to respawning. And then yeah, that is just such like a critical element of the Pokemon Go game. And he spends so much time in the chapter talking about Pokemon Go. It just it checks a lot of boxes for me. And it's one of those ones that would be like we had done the hierarchy of confidence of some of our different theories. If we were doing a Pokemon box one, I feel like the spawning one would be on there somewhere for me. I really like the connections you've made there.
I just want to quickly add in. This is like the number one thing I should have put on here was, yes, the Roki Greninja clapped feverishly in response, and I responded with a smile. So there is clearly this dynamic of like how characters are interacting. So maybe that is a use for response there.
As far as where to go from here, I think, like you said, the obvious one would be to look at like hatcheries or anything else that's like um, a geographic location that has to do with spawning. I'm sure there's other ways to look at it too. I had another thought and I can't think of what it is now, so I'll hand it over to Blake for his thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think the part that excited me the most, and I like all of this very much, but the part that I was most excited about was the connection of all of the Pokemon that are mentioned in the chapter, particularly connecting why it's all insects in that one section in the middle that he talks about, and then why we have a Sea King and a Magikarp. Like during the storytelling part, not thinking about the Obstagoon, I would say, not thinking about the Mabostiff or the Bouffalant, which I think seem to have different meanings. But beyond those Pokemon, the rest of the Pokemon, I always had trouble figuring out what's the pattern here. Why are these ones being mentioned specifically? And I think the spawning connects those really well in terms of the fish, Sea King, Magikarp, the crustaceans that are mentioned as crawdads, turning over rocks and looking for crawdads, the amphibians, both the Froakie, Greninja being frog-like Pokemon, and the salamander being mentioned, I like a lot, and then all of the bugs. So for me, that was a really good point that I enjoyed from this connection.
I also want to say I forgot to add in the Swampert and the Mudkip, which would be like two marshy environment or a marshy environment, which is also like the ideal spawning grounds for like the frogs or amphibians, if you will. So that also seems to line right up.
Right. So location wise, again, I like the idea of a fish hatchery somewhere being an important locale as one connection, or a place called Spawn County, or a city or a park called Spawn, or a homophone of Spawn, even if it's not SPAWN. I feel like this is a big one because it's throughout the whole chapter. It seems like a entire chapter theme that you could say spawning is a major theme. Now, it doesn't connect to looking through glass or things like that, which is probably another clue, let's say. But yeah, I'm bought in pretty hard to the spawning theme right now.
I got two things real quick. Does he ever say the word spawn in the chapter?
No.
All right. I really like that. Yeah. I like that he didn't, because it feels more like a discovery versus like just honing in on one specific word that he used. So I think that bolsters the theory quite a bit, because I'm sure he had a lot of opportunities to use that word. And then, Bryn, did you look into Gollum at all? Because he's based on a turtle or a tortoise, right?
Oh, so I texted you guys something else about Gollum this morning. So I think that's kind of in its other category by itself, almost in the way that the Bouffalant or the Mabostiff would be as well. So what I had said about the Gollum this morning, this was a middle of the night thought from last night. Little peek behind the curtains of the madness of my life right now. in the middle of the night, I thought, almost falling off the rock is really interesting when you then consider that Gollum is a rock that falls down a mountainside. So since that Gollum note is kind of like quick and passing towards the end, close to where they hid the treasure, it makes me think maybe the Gollum and the almost falling rock idea is like maybe this box is hidden somewhere where there have been fallen rocks, and it's kind of in those nooks and crannies of the rocks. So I have that in a bucket of its own.
Yes. Was that? Did you say both of your points, Cody?
Yes, those are my two things.
Okay.
I thought of.
Well, I think this is super exciting.
Thanks, guys.
As do I. Hopefully we get some community feedback to help out even more and come up with even more ideas there, because I feel like it's one of those threads we're pulling on that could bear fruit.
I do feel like, the idea of Pokemon being these evolution stages of a character, we see it with the Froakie to the Greninja. Like, I do think that's probably the biggest theme of the chapter. So my next step, I guess, is like, well, if spawning is kind of like this birth beginning of it, like, are there a couple other big buckets where we can try to find some more clues to bolster the growth stage, the transition stage? Choosing a frog is such a perfect candidate of being able to see growth and transition, like to go from an egg to a tadpole to, so I think there's probably a couple other big things we need to be picking up on, but I don't know. It just felt exciting to be excited for a minute. Like, so often I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm lost in madness. So it felt like a small win.
Do you believe in the Charizard, Charmander, Charmeleon transition in the purple image now again?
Are you asking me or Cody?
Both of you guys.
I would totally. I can be bought into that. Like, I would be more surprised if it came out that it wasn't anything.
Yay. That's a perfect representation of this generational theme, right? Which you just said like multiple times in the past minute.
I would say before I was like 99% on one side and 1% on the other. And now I am 99% on one side and 1% on the other. I know it's not in there. Zero change.
All right. No problem.
Everything that Bryn said, I think, is excellent. And no part of it made me think, oh, I bet now there is those 3 Pokemon in purple image.
Carry on.
All right. So yeah, if we're talking about the purple image, I also think there's a potential of the Swanna, like a swan-like Pokemon in there, which would be close homophone to Spawn. And then there's also like a crocodile-like one, which would be another amphibian reptile egg-laying type Pokemon too. So we're going woo-woo. That's my woo-woo take. Confirmation bias central over here. All right. Very good. Any other comments on that, or should we jump to Cody's Horseshoes and Hand Grenades?
I think you're just taking Bryn's excellent work and trying to tack on your woo-woo theories at the end.
Sorry. Hijacked.
All I will say is that if you have anything you'd like to contribute to that, please email into the mailbag. I'm all ears.
Very good. Cody, you hinted at something to do with you.
Yeah. Man, I'm not excited to follow Bryn's segment. It was so good. And now I have to go next. But it is something that I'm excited to talk about, and it's a long time coming. It's something I've been meaning to do for a year and a half, probably. And I finally took the time to actually do it. And now I want to talk about it with you guys. So, yeah, I mentioned that it is a good segue from the letter where he said, "Thank you for being you." So I've noticed in all of the chapters, I'm sure many people have kind of noticed in all of the chapters that they kind of follow the same formula for the most part, generally, which is a little introduction and then kind of the bulk of the chapter about the story or the treasure item or whatever. And then at the end, he does a little quip where he's like kind of talking to the reader about the treasure hunt for just like a couple of sentences, it seems like. And then the last part, he transitions into the next chapter and kind of gives you a teaser of what the next chapter is going to be. So it seems like that's kind of the general layout of most, if not all, of the chapters in the book. And I always thought that kind of two little sentences or paragraph that he'd say where he'd talk directly to the reader about the treasure, it just seemed like it'd be interesting for a second. We'd kind of forget about the last one by the time he moved on to the next chapter. And I've been meaning for now, like I said, like a year, maybe 18 months to go back and distill just those sections of every chapter where he says, a lot of the times he either mentions the treasure itself or mentions the treasure hunt or says you, addressing the reader. And in a lot of cases, he does all three of those. So I have pulled out all of those excerpts. I'm going to read through them all, and it's going to take a second, but most of them are pretty short. I've also bolded the sections that kind of stood out to me the most. I'd be interested to see if you guys kind of agree with that, or if you have different sections that you think are more or less interesting. But I think just kind of seeing these all in one place at one time, it starts to almost feel like there's these little sections that almost read kind of like a Forrest Fenny poem type thing, where there's like little nudges one way or the other. So I'm going to share my screen and we will try and tackle this together here. All right.
Oh boy.
Yep. Oh boy. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm not sure the best way to go about doing this. I'm going to read through them. I don't know if you want to talk about each one real briefly after I read it, or I just go through it. I'm open to suggestions on that.
I think just going through it, I like your style here of isolating the nuggets at the end of the chapter and just absorbing them as a whole. But I'm fine with people interrupt too. But let's try. Let's start with uninterrupted.
Okay. Yeah, please feel free to just talk over me if you have something to say, because I'm going to get out of breath just reading through all of these.
Should we round robin?
Yeah, do you want to share the burden?
Sure. Yeah, if you guys want to do that. You guys can read it well enough on your screen?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, it does seem like kind of a quite a big exercise to do, but I think it's going to pay off, and I think it's going to be good to see them all in the same place. So I'll start with the first one from chapter 1. Oh, before I start, I should say, sorry, there's a couple of, I don't know if there's any in the first 10 chapters here, but there's a couple that have little brackets, and I will, I have a little comment to say about like where it's found in the chapter or something, but we'll get to that. Chapter 1. He says, if you'd like to find the sapphire and the other treasures in the book, then think of these pages as your map. They offer a place to start, directions to follow, and ultimately a destination at which to arrive. As you encounter stories or ideas you feel you can divine from, write them down, draw them out, and organize them. Sometimes it takes a while for an entire plan to come fully into focus. The same holds true with most things we pursue. Without a roadmap, it's easy to aimlessly wander.
Chapter 2. If you find you are reading this book, hoping to find the treasures I have hidden, I believe Tu Yet Nu Yet might suggest not to wing this. She'd probably advise to not rush through these pages. She might encourage you to get to know these stories, to consider their content, and to not dismiss any details. She might even say this is a good strategy when looking for anything we seek. I agree. This principle holds true with most any treasure we pursue. The more you and I focus on a thing we desire, the more we understand ourselves in relation to it, and the easier it becomes to chart a course to where we need to go. Of course, such focus takes a bit of effort, and it requires being attentive to details.
Chapter 3. When reading this book, noticing details will help you find our treasures. This point is fairly obvious, but beyond this treasure hunt, valuing details can be rewarding in lots of ways. Simply remembering a name or birthday or a shared moment can make all the difference to someone.
Chapter 4. Fortunately, there's no jungle clearing required to find any of these treasure boxes I've hidden. In that regard, your task is much, much easier one. There is a lot to be admired about taking the road less traveled. Following one's own path is not always easy, but it can be amazingly rewarding.
Chapter 5. The idea for this treasure hunt came in a moment of inspiration, but I had to use my faith to see it through. Like faith, inspiration requires you and me to be open and available to it. When we are, it's an advocate, eager to give a helping hand. Its guidance can be so clear and direct that sometimes a dash of inspiration is all a treasure hunter really needs.
Chapter 6. Will you need inspiration to find the treasure boxes I have hidden? I imagine you might. If you ever feel discouraged while searching, remember you can aspire for a little help. Call to it. Just like peering behind rocks to find a treasure box, inspiration can appear almost anywhere. Just feel for where its breeze nudges you.
Chapter 7. I would advise you to go out and explore more if you want to find the treasures I have hidden. This is not meant to be condescending or trite. It's just that a willingness to be curious and to look beyond boundaries will serve you well. Go where others have not. You never know what's past the next tree line, over the next rise, or around the next corner unless we see it for ourselves.
Chapter 8. I'm an advocate of getting to know the histories and traditions of as many cultures as we can. It builds bridges. Yet beyond that, learning about the traditions of others gives us perspective on our own. It illuminates the unbreakable threads that not only bind generations together, but also interweave us all.
Chapter 9. If you choose to look for our treasure, try to consciously avoid confirmation bias. There is no need to force the clues to fit a location you want them to lead you to. Instead, let them guide you in a direction they want you to take. Be willing to consider different options and explore new possibilities. Look both ways before crossing.
Chapter 10. Our treasure hunt here, of course, is not designed to require any great hardship on you. The stakes are not particularly high. Searching and not finding the treasure will most likely only leave you with happy memories of spending time outdoors with a loved one or with the delightful sights, smells, and sounds of nature around you. This hunt is designed to bring you joy, not suffering. On to the next page. Do you guys want to say anything before we move on? Or just get through it first and then talk?
Yeah, this is interesting. Let's continue.
Okay. I already did chapter 10, so chapter 11's next.
Okay. Chapter 11. To ensure your hunting is safe and joyous, I compiled a summary of best practices to follow if you want to look for our treasure. You can find these details in the postscript of this book. It's a must read. My goal is to keep you in good spirits, fine health, and far away from misfortune of any kind.
Chapter 12. Fortunately, in our hunt, there's no reason for you to leave family, move far away, and get into an argument over a plot of land. Our adventure does not require you to sleep outside on the dusty ground, although a camping trip is always a fun idea. You won't need to schedule rations or stock up on survival kits at the Army supply store. Instead, it's very possible that at least one of our treasure boxes rests not too far from you. You might even discover one during a leisurely afternoon outing in which you enjoy a picnic with a loved one by your side.
Chapter 13. If you ever find yourself getting too excited about something, such as the prospects of finding the items I've hidden, Make sure you remember this story. If the stakes suddenly seem too big, then give yourself a chance to pause, take a breath, reframe, and relax. There exists a fine line between passion, excitement, and chaos. Remaining calm will better suit your efforts.
Chapter 14, we have brackets, Cody.
Yeah, so this one was weird. So I talked about how it seems like he follows the same formula for each of the chapters. This one had like a very obvious instance of addressing the reader about the treasure mid chapter, and then again at the end had his standard one as well. So I included both of those.
Chapter 14. As I look at the blue and pink irises on our vase, I can't help but think of the resting places of the boxes I've hidden and the colors of nature that surround each of them. Perhaps you'll pass by similar flowers along your way. So, if you want to find the treasures I've hidden, don't demand too much of yourself. You don't have to find them quickly or on your first try. If you do, congratulations. But if you do not, then use your failure as an opportunity to evaluate, understand more, and try again. I would not be surprised if failure winds up being part of the process that eventually leads you to our treasure. Welcome it as much as you are capable.
So this one has a bracket too, Bryn. So chapter 15 also didn't really follow, I shouldn't say also, because the last one did follow kind of the formula, but had an extra one mid-chapter. Chapter 15 doesn't really have an instance like this, like every other chapter does at the end. But then also at the end of chapter 15, he says, I'm going to do this one, Bryn. He says, before we move on, there's a fascinating thread that connects this chapter to the next. And it like segues into chapter 16 in kind of a more direct way than most of the other chapters do. So that seemed strange and notable and maybe just a little fluky. Because he's just like, yeah, he just followed that same formula so strictly in every other chapter. And then like 15 and 16 almost seemed like he wrote it as one chapter and then went, oh, that's too long. I'm just going to split it in half.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how it read as I went through it. But so then if you want to read chapter 16, Bryn.
Yeah, chapter 16. If you begin to question whether you can find the treasure I have hidden, I invite you to return to this chapter. It's here to help you. Maybe it can provide you just the direction you need.
Chapter 17 is a longer one. If you and others search for our hidden treasure, I hope you will share your stories with one another. Much can be learned through mutual experiences. And like Washington, I encourage you to document your adventures. Maybe there will be important things you discover about yourself or experiences you will have that you will not want to forget. It may be worthwhile to journal these. Your insights and adventures might also inspire others. Plus, regardless of whether you want to find our treasure, story sharing brings us closer because it helps us express our mutual humanity. It educates our children and gives them new perspectives. It welcomes strangers. It bonds us with our neighbors. Storytelling weaves a quilt that blankets us all. You and I and everyone we know search for the same basic treasures. And despite what the media, news, or politicians might have us believe in an attempt to grab our attention, these treasures we all seek are not a zero-sum game. The more we share about our lives with each other, the richer we all become. Almost done.
Chapter 18. I sometimes wonder about what will happen to the items in our treasure once you find them. Will you ever tell anyone? Will you sell them for cash? Will you share them with others in some way? That outcome is not for me to judge, but it is my wish that whatever becomes of these items, the person or people who locate them do not limit themselves only to the excitement of possessing the treasure, but also find a way to share their joy with others. That would be a more perfect punchline.
Chapter 19. Whether staring at the Milky Way from the top of a minivan or peering down at Earth from the space station, what is gained is perspective. That is why I try to look at the night sky whenever I can. More than just a relaxing experience, stargazing provides a fresh standpoint. You and I are reminded how much more exists beyond these topics we spend most of our time worrying about. Perspective is worth considering when treasure hunting.
Chapter 20, Our five senses are limited. We can only see so far in any one direction from any point at which we are stationed. This is why having the will to find a new standpoint is important. It is how we begin to form a more complete picture.
1. If you've been thoughtful, you may have considered that a chapter titled Make It Make Sense might also be a reference to figuring out the solution for the location of the treasure I've hidden. My hope is that this chapter can help you do just that, but you might have to look beyond just ancient myths and legends and consider more.
22. Picasso was persistent and brave. These are not bad traits to have when hunting for a treasure. The act of going out and searching takes certain boldness. Not everyone will be willing to try. In my opinion, taking the first step out your door might be the bravest action required of you here.
The last one, chapter 23. Whether or not you choose to search for the treasure boxes I have hidden, the wisdom of the 5 gifts of Hathor remains. Let us be present and thankful through the entirety of each of our quests in life. What friends can we make? What places can we visit? What can we learn from one another? Who will inspire us? Whom will we inspire? When we simply open to the possibilities and give gratitude each day, the potential for riches is endless. Inspired by the histories of the items in our treasure, I began this book talking about the means of the word treasure. I made a case for how you and I and all humans are treasure hunters throughout the whole of our lives. Our most vital hunts are universal ones, core desires each one of us shares. It is my wish that as the years ahead unfold, you and I may become better at acknowledging all the common roads our humanity has us walk down. Our hunts intersect, they intertwine, they connect us all.
Woohoo!
Yeah. I've been reluctant to do this because I knew it was going to be just such a wall of text and that we'd have to read through it. But I think it's really worthwhile to see it all in one place at one time. And I have a handful of comments to make on it. But if either one of you guys want to go first, by all means.
I will say just off the bat, this was a lot more interesting and insightful than I expected it to be. I think having them laid out in this way, just jumping from each one to the next, almost like paints a clear picture of the narrative that he's trying to tell between these chapters in a way that you don't really get when you read it in its entirety. I think this is a really helpful resource, especially.
Yeah, I did just that first response here. I mean, it seemed like it was pretty clear instructions at the beginning and then kind of pretty clear instructions again at the end and maybe some fluff in the middle. Is that
That's how I'd see it too. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of see I'd highlighted or bolded the sections that kind of stood out most to me. And there's definitely some like full chapter texts that kind of seem throwaway to me there in the middle.
Yeah. So have you then just put all the bolded statements together, Cody, and tried to focus on those, or that's too much of an ask right now? How far have you taken this, I guess?
I have some notes and I have some thoughts. I wanted to touch base with you guys to kind of feel you guys out on it first and see what your thoughts were before I proceed with this too much. It's definitely something I want to keep in the front of my mind and explore more, pun intended. Because yeah, it seems like they just stand out to me so much as like him talking directly to the reader. And I'll get into some of my notes here. I was going to say a lot of them do. I wouldn't even say a lot, but a handful of them do seem like nothing. Like it'd be hard to get any information that would be pertinent to actually finding the treasure out of them. And I think that those ones to me seem pretty obvious when that's happening. And then there's almost like 2 different types of information that seem like they could be something. There's like the obvious things, like when he says, it's a great place to have a picnic. When he says like, oh, you could see irises, stuff like that, where it's like, if you took that at face value, you could use that to narrow down your search area. So that's kind of one way of reading through these. The second one is you can kind of read through it and pick out things that, to me, like I was talking about, kind of like almost Forrest Fenney poem type things, or almost, it would actually probably better would be to say like more Joyce Serenade-y type information, like the "it builds bridges" and the "look both ways before crossing." Those feel like, it feels like he's saying that for a reason, but it's not like as obvious as, oh, there's irises, or it's a great place to have a picnic. So there's kind of those two different levels of information that I'm picking through right now. And that's kind of where I'm at. I just kind of have those two buckets as I'm starting to work on filling. And at this point, it kind of becomes a little bit more opinion than just kind of the fact of pulling the excerpts out of the texts. So I wanted to touch base with you guys first. The other ones, the ones I kind of wanted to draw specific attention to, there's obvious ones in the first few chapters that we've kind of talked to death, like the roadmap stuff. We all know that. But 16, I thought was very notable. The part where he says, "I invite you to return to this chapter. It's here to help you. Maybe it can provide you just the direction you need." Especially in conjunction with the roadmap stuff. That feels like very direct, I don't even know what the word would be, instruction from JCB.
Yeah.
And then 21, I guess I just gotta read the whole thing. We just read it, but if you've been thoughtful, you may have considered that a chapter title to make it make sense might also be a reference to figuring out the solution for the location of the treasure I've hidden. My hope is that this chapter can help you do just that, but you might have to look beyond just ancient myths and legends and consider more. I thought that one was very kind of in your face instruction from JCB. And then the end of 23, where he says, acknowledging all the common roads our humanity has us walk down, our hunts intersect, they intertwine, they connect us all. I feel like within these excerpts, there's a lot of overlap about like different cultures and people walking different roads and how those intersect. And doing some research into that, which obviously conflicts a little bit with, depending on how you interpret like the all you need's the book thing. But that also seems like something worth looking into, and something just, it's almost something you can't really look into. It's more something you need to like keep in mind as you're reading the rest of the book, is how does this, like, what are we reading that could, you could kind of use the knowledge of looking for intersections in culture, in some way. And the obvious one there would be like the Hopi stuff, but, there's probably other instances as well, like the old Hercules and was that Greek mythology?
Yeah. Everything aligns to France, right? As a joke.
Yes, it does.
But thinking about this more, like if we are thinking about generations and the unbreakable thread being a story about generations, do we take these stories? Do we take the main story from each quote unquote generation and pin that to our roadmap? So as an example, chapter 1 is Steve Jobs, right? That was a story about the mid 80s, let's say. We have some directionality in that in terms of we liked that Highway 101 connection. We have the Jackie Onassis chapter that's in the 60s. And I'm kind of picking my own theory apart here because we have the 66 Olympic Games medal. But that maybe doesn't have anything to do with the 1966 Olympic Games. We have the 92 Atlanta Games. We have the 80s Apple chapter. We have the 60s Onassis chapter. What do we have in the 70s? And that's kind of like JCB's childhood time. I'm not picking up anything from the 70s, but there's probably something in there.
I don't want to answer because it's just gonna show how
expose yourself.
What were you gonna say? What were you gonna say?
When was the moon rocks?
Oh,
that wouldn't have been the 60s, but those moon rocks might have been collected in the later Apollo missions. possible. Then obviously we have like more ancient history. We have the Greek/Roman mythology. We have the ancient shipwreck from, what was that, 1700s. We have anything in the 2000s? Anyway, we don't have to do this whole exercise, just a way to think about it. If he's talking about these intertwined paths that have been walked, can we make a intertwined path based on the key treasures or key stories that he tells over the course of the book?
That's a really good thought.
And yeah,
you don't
have to answer, but
I definitely want a link to that document from you, Cody. I think I, more than you two, for sure, get very lost in the little comments of every single thing. So I think this keeps it very high level and can help keep a very maybe focused perspective on the types of things we need to be honing in on.
Yeah. So you and I are almost looking at it in two different ways. You're looking at it as like a 36,000 foot view map. And to me, I'm looking at it as like, I feel like JCB is sprinkling very specific, detailed instruction throughout the book in a way that like makes it harder to, you like have to read the book many times to get the information you need to like find all that detail. So it's in a way like really well laid out from like a puzzle standpoint, right? Because it's not like he condensed all of these important pieces of information all on one page. You like have to go through this process that he's kind of alluding to in the excerpts themselves of like keep reading, keep coming back, consolidate information, and then he's spoon feeding you all of this direction.
I agree with that as well. I think it's both, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. We're going to be hitting chapter 16 in 2 weeks here. So let's keep that.
Yes.
I invite you to return to this chapter. It's here to help you. Maybe it can provide you just the direction you need. That feels like probably the most on the nose one of all of the excerpts to me.
Mm-hmm. So our goal is to figure out what he's referencing in that chapter during our Forest Fen Pig Nuggets. We all have to come with an idea.
And I'd also like to keep chapter 1 in mind as we read that, because it feels like it would jive really well with the Maker Roadmap instruction.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the look both ways before crossing, because that's like obviously alluding to a road as well, right?
Yeah, that one stood out to me too.
And also a little teaser. I have a comment note from your chapter 17 lines that ties into my notes from chapter 14 as well.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. It took me a minute to.
Can you remind us what those are?
Well, maybe I'll just say it now.
Sure.
Caused too much confusion. In the chapter 17 notes, he said something about a zero-sum game, which he also says in chapter 14, which I thought was interesting because of, like, we talked about basketball score, this being a zero-sum game, to then reuse the term zero-sum game in chapter 17. That's very curious.
Mm-hmm. It is. All right. Well, a heavy topic to dwell on, but I think it's helpful. I think the most tangible things are just exactly what you mentioned, Cody. From my perspective, the most tangible things were the chapter 16 and then the chapter 21, like key chapters to help give you guidance, being rich with some sort of content that we should be able to interpret. And then I also liked the discussion about perspectives as well. And it's just because of recency bias, probably, with this basketball picture and Mount Rushmore and things we're going to talk about today. But I think the perspective is an important one, too.
Love it. Thank you for guiding us through the exercise, Cody. I think it was a worthwhile endeavor.
Agreed.
My
Mailbag.
pleasure.
Mailbag. We've got mail.
Sorry, if you want to debrief, that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, we'll get into mailbag.
No, let's keep moving. This is already a long episode.
Mailbag. I've got mailbag. First one is from John. This is a bit of a response to you, Cody. A twist on the continental divide idea for how boxes are spread out. Could they be on or near national, scenic, or historic trails? These long public trails pass by some of America's greatest natural monuments. So he lists them out by box, what his theories would be in this case. Appalachian footpath box, he says, def near the Appalachian Trail. Concur with that. Def. I liked that. Forest Fen box, Rocky Mountain Continental Divide Trail. Pokemon box, it would be the Notches Trace Scenic Trail. Said it was a road trip. Or maybe the Butterfield Overland National Park. This one goes through Harrison, Arkansas. I have been boots on the ground in BNR and will go back until I've searched every corner. I like it. Past and feature box, Pacific Crest Trail, easily and quickly dispatched from LA. Lion Share box, Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. Through North Dakota, South Dakota, not far from Mount Rushmore or Teddy Roosevelt National Park, the founding father of the National Park Service. So I thought Cody would enjoy hearing this as another way for there being like a theme for how these are spread out regionally as well.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Again, it's by nature, it would have it hidden in beautiful places, and also plays on the JCB comment about thinking that more will be found once the first couple are found, which kind of makes you think there could potentially be some sort of pattern there. And then for Mount Rushmore, I know that Blake had brought up Mount Rushmore a couple of times over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
More to come on Mount Rushmore.
More to come on Mount Rushmore. And it's not my concept, a community concept, let's say.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And right after the next one, Cody, it's coming up soon.
Wow.
Okay, next mailbag is from Behold. So this is in response to Blake's plea about anybody having commentary on magnifying glass and specifically the cup character.
Nice.
He's connecting this to Braille. So if you want to pull up that picture that I sent you, Blake, it has a couple Braille letters outlined. He said, I had a quick idea about the magnifying glass markings. Could they be Braille with the dots connected? Thinking about the cup shape specifically and how it has been haunting you, I noticed that it looks exactly like the letter N in Braille if it was rotated 90 degrees and the dots were connected, or a Z if it was reflected and rotated. The zigzag shape could then be a T, but is reflected and not rotated. So anyways, I outlined the N and the T here.
Nice.
Which honestly, the N is probably like the closest thing that we've seen shape-wise to the little cup shape. So I enjoyed this. I thought it was very creative. I wanted to pass it on to you, Blake.
Very good. Yeah, I want to do a quick translation then. So going from left to right across the magnifying glass, and maybe that's the wrong way if we're thinking about it in a clockwise fashion. But I'm going to do it anyway. D here. And then is there a, I guess, H, E, H, N, E. I don't know what to do with that last symbol, which is kind of just a straight line. E, H, N, T. Anyway, I like all options here. This is a good one.
There was more to his email. I kept it brief, but he kind of goes into saying like the rest of it kind of falls apart. But he had a little bit more commentary as well, but nothing groundbreaking was found. But I did like the cup shape in the N.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does kind of have a little bit of a goofy angle on the right side of it, which actually does match that kind of well. So I like this. Thank you, Behold. Very good.
Behold. Next is from Stephanie. So she kind of had two parts here. I'm going to leave out the second part to late cover in the next one.
Mm.
But she has a part here about Mount Rushmore. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm reading the correct part here. Okay, throughout the TTI book, there are references to peering over a shoulder and a hand upon a shoulder. Oh boy, I don't know how to say this person's name. Gutzon Borglums. whoever designed Mount Rushmore. I'm sorry. Initial design for Mount Rushmore was for all 4 presidents to be carved head to waist. Due to the loss of funding in 1941, the project was never fully completed to Borglum's original plan. George Washington was the only one to be carved with shoulders. Is set slightly forward and he is set slightly forward than the other 3 presidents, and it appears as though they're all peering over his shoulder.
Hmm.
I believe all of the shoulder mentions in TTI can point to Mount Rushmore. So a little bit to add on to Blake's Mount Rushmore theory.
Yes, this is a mailbag / Discord detectives / community, however you want to phrase it. We've been having some ping pong back and forth with Dr. C. You heard a little bit about his decryption of the idea of the moon alphabet for the magnifying glass symbols, the moon script last episode. And now recently he's put out some new information based on our discussion of chapter 13 last time, last episode. Anyway, it's a whole interweaving of content right now. So yeah, I have a lot to talk about. Sorry. Let me get back to the Zoom and I'll share it with you guys. So, Dr. C in one of his last videos argued about our concepts being potentially a mountain range. And the reason that we're interested in this basketball picture at all is, well, not at all, but a main reason we're interested in this is because this doesn't seem to be an AI generated image based on AI detectors that have been used on the internet. Whereas all the other kind of illustrations, let's say, in the book do seem to be AI generated. And this one comes back as not AI. So there's a potential that there's importance to this image if it was actually drawn by JCB himself. And so Dr. C has shown some overlays of this image on top of Mount Rushmore. And he has additional reasons for that. He thinks he's made a connection to Abraham Lincoln in the basketball chapter as well. I'm not going to go into the gory details of that, but it is pretty fascinating, I would say, if you follow the thread. So obviously we'll post the link to that video down below. He actually has a 3-part series on chapter 13 that he goes into much more detail, but I'm just going to hit some highlights here. So Cody and Bryn, for your perspective, he's kind of overlaid the basketball picture on top of Mount Rushmore and argues that there is kind of an interesting pattern that emerges. And he kind of highlights the main points of that with the yellow line here. I think the biggest flaw you can kind of see here on the right picture is that back of the basketball jersey kind of dips into George Washington's head a little bit. But the overall pattern is quite interesting, I would say. And you can see kind of an unambiguous picture here at the bottom. But do you guys have first blush on this? And I think maybe the pictures that you provided, Bryn, from Stephanie's, that you were going to talk to you on Stephanie's, might be more helpful in looking at this, but I'll hold this image for a second.
They're also from the Dr. C video.
Perfect.
She had linked out to it. But yeah, I think maybe my main thing is this first big bump on the left
Mm-hmm.
which this like little cartoon hand is pointing to.
Yes.
So that's the shoulder, right?
Yeah, let's go back to the
Yeah.
image. That is the shoulder
So
going up.
I think
Where-
my main thing is I would not be including that in the mountain range. I think like the arm is overlaid the
Mhm.
mountain range scene. Because if you go back to the original basketball picture,
Mhm.
sorry, I'm making you jump around.
No, not at all.
Do we have the one of like just the basketball player?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I want. Like I think the mountain range, if we're using this as a mountain range, is just like the black layer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like one big peak dips down, two little peaks, versus it then including this hump of the shoulder
Mm-hmm. Let's go back
is
to
my
this image.
main takeaway.
So you're saying one big peak kind of goes down. There's a gap, goes back up. It kind of falls apart as soon as you hit the end of Lincoln's head here.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say in general, I am not convinced. And I know in the video he's like, you might just have to get like the right angle, which is totally fair. I mean, that would be the case with any mountain range. But like you
Yeah.
said, the big divot down into Washington's head is a hard one.
Yes. It kind of rekindles what we were talking about the last episode about if this picture of the basketball player on its side, like how do you know which perspective you're supposed to look at it? I will say that at least Mount Rushmore like seems like has a pretty prominent viewing section of road that should be fairly consistent. So I do like it from that perspective that everybody is typically looking at it from the same direction. So that kind of addresses that discussion we had. But is this the right usage of it? I don't know. It's interesting. It has it uses a bit of imagination, I would say. I'm not 100% convinced of this. Cody, any gut reaction here?
Yeah, I like the idea. I think I've been pretty consistent with my take on any of these type of things all the way back from when we had looked at like page rip outs, which is that if this is going to be valid, it needs to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like so perfect, or else there's just too much room for error. There's too many things that exist in the world that would follow that general shape once you loosen the tolerances to that extent. So yeah, I'm out on this one. And like you guys both said, I mean, it seems like potentially there could be something with looking at it from a different angle, but that notch over Washington's head, it's like you're not gonna find an angle to look at it where that notch goes away. So
yep.
It is a cool idea, but yeah, it's just got to be perfect for that to be valid.
Yeah, this is the section causing a little bit of consternation right under the arm there. I want to talk about the basketball picture a little bit more. Sorry, Bryn, did you have a conclusion there as well that you wanted to?
Nope, you can keep going.
So I've done more research. I know we're kind of all just following Matthew Hobbies, who did the original AI tool research. I'm sure other people have done it on the side. I haven't seen it on Discord. I haven't looked too hard, but I just wanted to do it myself. There's kind of two concerns I had. Maybe one concern. One concern was, does it matter that they had this textured picture behind the illustration that is supposedly not AI generated that caused it that caused the software to say this picture is not AI generated? Does that seem reasonable to you guys? Because you can actually see the texture of the page like behind his leg and on his arm. That was causing me a little concern.
Yep.
So I've done a couple attempts of trying to remove the background altogether. This first attempt was using my favorite photo editor, which is PowerPoint, which isn't the most powerful thing. So I'd be happy to know if other people have attempted this with maybe like Photoshop or something a little more fancy. But I just at least tried to remove the most of the background of the image, but we still have the page texture. And this one came out a little bit pixelated as well. So I'm going to be testing that one against an AI detector as well as the original picture on the left. Any questions so far?
Are you,
No
so
questions.
you have tested them.
I have tested them. I'm going to go through results.
I was afraid you were going to say I am going to do that. Okay, carry on.
So the first tool I used was called Zero GPT. It was the top Google hit when I wrote in AI generated image detector. This is the first hit that comes up for me. It again confirmed kind of our initial Matthew Hobby's result that this image is likely real, 97% real, but it is digitally edited, which I think is a reasonable assumption based on what we think JCB had access to in terms of tools. It's real, but there's a likelihood that it's digitally edited, and it's been classified as a digitally edited image here.
I wonder what the difference is between a real image that's been digitally edited or a digital image that's been in real life edited, manually edited.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. There's probably signatures of like the way the pixels are smoothed out. I'm guessing when you use like a digital editing tool, that it probably picks up on certain trends, is my guess. If this is a machine learning train tool, AI tool, probably has a lot of training data to be able to make that determination. I don't know what it is. There's more details in some of the other tools I've used, which we'll get to shortly. When I put in the removed background, we get a little bit different result. Here it says the image is likely real, but only 51% to 49%.
Coin flip.
It's a coin flip. Low confidence. But again, this is one that I used PowerPoint to edit. Not the greatest. I don't know if the PowerPoint depixelization kind of removed the details that the software needs when it converted the image to a PNG. So that's a little bit unknown. So let's look at more things.
Yes, this is. I have so many questions about just how the technology works, because it's like if you took 100% real drawing and then you cropped it or cut it out using something like PowerPoint, is that considered like a digital edit to this program when it's searching it? When
it's a good question.
I wouldn't know.
We should probably test that theory. I also used Claude AI I just told it, take this image, which is the original image on the left here, and remove the background. And I told it exactly my concern, which was my concern is that the image is transparent and it has page texture from whatever page it was drawn on in the background that I think might be throwing it off. So I told Claude all of that, and it came up with this image. So it is fairly cleaned up. You can still see a little bit of kind of page texture around the edges here. But when I fed that image into Zero GPT, it was a little more confident that that was a real drawing, not AI generated again. All right. I used another tool called Note GPT. This one gives a little bit more detail about how it's deciding. It's blocked here, sorry. But it says that the probability that this was AI generated is 0.16%. So very low probability that it's AI generated. High probability that it's real. The image has a sketch-like ink drawn artistic style with deliberate brushstrokes and splatters. The texture of the background resembles rough paper or canvas. So it picked up on that, enhancing the hand-drawn effect. Lines are dynamic and fluid with intentional breaks and smudges that mimic traditional ink art rather than digital precision. I don't know if I would necessarily agree with all the decision making that this tool is using to make that determination, but it was very confident that it's not AI generated. And then I used another tool called Undetectable AI, and it kind of agreed with that first tool I used, GPT-0, and said this image is likely digitally edited, but is 97% real. It's 97% confident that it's real. Just as kind of a sanity check, I put some of the other images in, and I purposely removed the compass from the ship image from the famous shipwreck chapter. It very clearly said this image is fake. This other one where we do have a little bit of page, like background on the mom, JCB's mom taking him out of the church. That one is also highly confident that that's an AI generated image. And then when we use the other tool, when we did the church image as well, that was 80% confident that it was probably AI generated. We have some controls here that across tools seem to be consistent in the story that the basketball image is not AI generated.
I mean, at this point, I definitely feel confident that there's something very different about that photo or that illustration.
Mm-hmm.
I do think I'm in the camp of believing it is not AI generated. Just because it's like, even when you took out the background, granted, this is not like the perfect scenario image to be doing it, but for it to still at best be 50-50, it just feels like it would so quickly be like, oh, this is, if it were AI generated, I feel like it would just be able to pick up on that at that point with a higher level of confidence. So
yeah,
there's definitely got to be something different about this.
So if it's not AI generated, that means JCB drew it, or it is a stock image. We've seen lots of stock images being used in the text. I don't know if anybody has looked to see if this is a stock image, and that would kind of quell all of our concerns, I would say. If it's not a stock image, that means JCB drew this. Because in the title page, he says, all art was generated by the author, unless otherwise specified.
I could see this being either a stock image or like even a photograph that he drew over.
A tracing.
What's the line from The Office? Oh, this is so good. It could be a tracing.
Is that freehand? It's so good it could be a tracing.
But oh gosh, ever since Cody pointed out the basketball panels in the last one, like why would he have added in this line? I mean, and the shoes are so weird. I don't know, you guys.
Right. So I'm just talking through all options here. Has anyone seen a JCB drawing before? That might be something worth trying to track down. Like a doodle somewhere that he's made. Like, do we think he has the ability to draw this freehand even? I like the idea of a tracing.
In the book, or was it an interview, at one point doesn't he say like, oh, my wife's the artist, like alluding that he is not good at art? Does that sound familiar to you guys?
Possible, yeah. It does sound familiar.
That definitely rings a bell. But he could just be like, downplaying his abilities.
Right. Anyway, I think this basketball picture is still highly in play. I like what we've talked about with the mountain ranges. Happy to hear other ideas. Yes, Bryn.
Or maybe what would kind of throw off the AI detection is if you trace something, hand drew something, and then told AI, make this drawing match the style of these other pictures in the book that were already generated. But then I guess it would still read as AI generated, I would assume.
I think it would, yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Anyway, food for thought. I think this picture is super important in my opinion still.
I agree.
A couple other notes from Dr. C's video that I think are fun. He pointed out, and there's more in his videos. I highly recommend you check out Dr. C's videos on chapter 13. There's interesting nuggets in there. From chapter 13, he was the basketball 007, never stirred, never shaken. Jordan was at his best under the brightest lights. And then later in the chapter, I looked up the clock. Its red electronic numbers burned bright. I think we had maybe flagged that as well, but Dr. C has some more commentary on that in his video. The idea, Cody, you're going to love this one. It turns out that 50/50 is the 100th triangular number. And 50/50 is mentioned in the chapter when talking about the card grading. that the proportion of the card is exactly 50/50. And 50/50 is the 100th triangular number. Verified.
I like that.
That's crazy, right?
Very excellent.
That's crazy. So what to do with that, I don't know. Dr. C has a bit more commentary on that. He points out that Carl Friedrich Gauss is famous, fairly famous mathematician. When he was in third grade, his teacher asked the class to add all the numbers 1 to 100 as a task meant to keep the kids busy. Gauss, according to this legend, was the one that said, let me just add 1 plus 100 and do that 50 times instead of adding the numbers in series. And that turned out to be 50/50, which turns out to be the 100th triangular number. And Dr. C, I don't have the slide here because I want you to watch his video, but then he makes the connection to Gauss as a Gaussian blur that you typically use in a photo manipulation software. And we had talked about blur last time as well. So
that's right. Okay.
That's cool. We're starting to live in Dr. C's world, which is fun, but can be dangerous, I will say. All right. That's all I have to say. Check out the video. Highly recommend. Link below.
What was the follow-up that we needed to do about triangular numbers based on that Matthew Hobbies slide last time?
Matthew Hobbies said that there's exactly 26 triangular numbers through 360. And so using the angles around the magnifying glass potentially, or angles of the coin, because 26 letters fit into 360 of triangular numbers. I haven't followed up with that yet. It's been on back of my mind a lot though.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right. What's next? That was a lot. Discord detectives. Do we want to do
gatherers,
it? Or should we just let's do it.
We could save some stuff for next time too, because we're gonna have because Bryn's gonna be out of town.
Is yours quick, Bryn?
I have one very quick one.
Okay.
This was from the Calazar's Past and Future channel from a user BL. And this was not recent or anything. I was just selfishly looking around for Washington things. And this came up. The first part is not new to anyone, and the second part is very clever in my mind. So every time I read the chapter, I think more in riddles and play on words. For instance, through the window of my home office could easily be an office program on a Microsoft Surface laptop running Windows, which we've mentioned before. And then he says, fun note, could Washington state reflect a state of gold? Double UA. So UA is the gold element. AU. So then he would double the U for WA Washington. I just I thought it was clever. Do I think that is what it is? If I don't think that's what it is, but I enjoyed the wordplay aspect that he was bringing to past and future box.
Nice.
That's good. We like any Washington theories.
Automatically to the top.
Give me all the Washington.
All right. We have to do mine as well. And we will skip puzzle. We're going to skip puzzle corner today, even though it's my favorite sound effect. We're going to skip it. But let me do one more quick Discord detectives with you guys. Because it's a Dr. R squared nugget. So let me get this shared with you. Sorry. And this is one that I can't believe we didn't pick up on. So Dr. R squared doing yeoman's work.
What's that?
Yeah, doing yeoman's work. He is doing a image by image cataloging of every image in the book, and he's on chapter 3 right now. And on the puzzle, I know, on the Japanese puzzle box that looks shockingly similar to the to the cup.
No way.
The infamous cup.
That is the cup.
That is the
heck
cup.
Is going on?
Right. So Cody looks like he's looking at his book right now. Can you discern that? Do you think, Cody?
Please hold.
So chapter 3, the Japanese puzzle box. If you look at one of the kind of four-pointed stars, there seems to be a white mark on one of the triangles, and it looks like the upside-down cup from the magnifying glass.
I'm shook.
Yeah, it does. So what if these aren't like meant to be real world symbols at all, but they're just like symbols connecting things? Okay,
it's possible. Time out.
Right.
Let me give you more context. So the next obvious question is, where did JCB get this image from? Because the image, he doesn't include the puzzle box in the treasure. It's some other image that he got this. And this image has been identified as being from the Kogi Japan Traditional Crafts of Japan website. And this is the same picture you can see here. So this is actually not a JCB image. JCB got it from somewhere. So I'm assuming he got it from his stock image site, because he otherwise should have cited where he got the image from. And if you go to this website, you can zoom in slightly on this image, and you can see that there is a flaw there. Even if it's not at high resolution, there's clearly a white mark there on this image. So this is original from the source of wherever JCB got this image from. That mark is there. It was not a JCB special, I don't think. So is it just the biggest coincidence of the day? Or did JCB put the upside down cup image because this flaw was already on this Japanese puzzle box? There's a lot of different scenarios that I think could play out here, or it's a nothing.
Yeah.
Well, it's
like
it's wild that they're both in chapter 3. Come on.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like at the very beginning of the episode where it's talking about getting more information. It's a double-edged sword. It's like you get information, you can interpret it 2 different ways, and they're like polar opposites. So now it's like, all right, either this confirms that is not a cup because it was, or at least not intentionally a cup rune because it was already on the box, or it confirms that the cup rune is important because it matches something. So,
I think what we need to do is zoom in on, say, like then the picture of the Fabergé egg, and see if we can find anything there. Or the picture that he gives us of the lion's share box in the chapter. Let's just look very closely at the other pictures in the chapter, because I think if that is meant to be tied to the puzzle box, then I would have to believe the intention is for those other symbols to be in the other images too.
Yeah, the Fabergé egg is a stock image for sure. Dr. R squared obviously followed up with that because he's doing a catalog of chapter 3 images right now. And so, yeah, a lot of people have speculated like hands on the Fabergé egg mean anything on the clock. but it's a stock image as well. But I don't think Dr. R Squared found anything on there that was reported as being different than the stock image. But again, might be worth us looking a bit closer at that, just as a second set of eyes.
Wow, that was shocking. What a roller coaster.
Yes, so be sure to check out treasureinside.substack.com. I'm looking forward to this is, as I said, yeoman's work for Dr. R Squared to be tracking down every image here and trying to find an origin story for each image. So super helpful to the community.
That's amazing.
All right. Let us dive into chapter 14. Tiffany's furnace and Thoreau's fire. Anybody want to start?
I can.
Yay.
The fabric of American culture is stitched with the spirit of independence and exploration.
That's mine. You know
Sorry.
That's mine. Very excellent find, Bryn.
Thank you.
I'll add on to that a little bit. The exploration, and then immediately after, other society advancing discoveries were and are pioneered right here. I know there is, like, particularly because of why I like St. Louis, there are others that think, at least on Discord, that think Lewis and Clark is an important concept here, which would match nicely with St. Louis. And there's kind of just two words here, the exploration and pioneered, that I feel kind of match that theme as well, right in a row here. I did want to flag that second sentence as well.
Was the second sentence right where it said pioneered right here? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Pioneered, yeah. Yeah, I mean, St. Louis being the gateway to the West definitely fits, especially with like the westward expansion of you think about the gold rush being a theme there too.
Yep.
So
the Arc, St. Louis Arch.
Yeah, no, I immediately thought St. Louis as well with the pioneered.
Cody.
What do I want to do? I'll do the picture of the bottom of the cup. I got pretty excited about it for a minute. The more I think about it, the more I think it's nothing. But here, I'll just share because I just pulled it up.
I have it as well. If you need to.
Oh, okay.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because it reminded me of the Hopi calendar most of all. Because now it's turning a vase into a circle by looking at it upside down. It has like these partition lines.
Cool.
Also could just be a sun. Definitely looks like a sun. And then as I zoomed way in to show it, I'm realizing after our talk we just had about little microscopic details, there's all sorts of little H here and little marks and whatnot. Yeah, so I don't think that's anything. He has all the reason in the world to show the bottom of the cup like that, because that's where it has like the Lewis comfort to Tiffany markings and all of that. But at first glance, I got excited about the idea of basically any picture of anything perfectly circular now makes me think of that gem and the Hopi calendar and trying to connect all those kind of things.
That's a good thought process. I didn't even think about that with this one.
You would have loved my puzzle corner. Cover it next time.
Next week.
Now the suspense will kill me.
No, it's okay. It's not that exciting. But yeah, that's good. I like your guys' connection to circles now. I didn't think about it even in that context, but that's helpful. Right. I had zero sum game highlighted here, so that was super helpful. You've already covered that because I did not realize it was part of a later chapter term either. So that was a great find, Cody/Bryn. I'll do this one. Thoreau took from his pocket a matchbook he'd bought at the local store earlier that day.
That was like one of my main ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I picked up on that too. How weird is that?
I'm kind of curious what your perspective is. For me, just because I liked the connection to Walden books that was mentioned earlier in the book.
That's right.
Is that a connection to that chapter? Because he's talking about going to a local store earlier that day. Who cares where he bought the matches? So this is like one that I feel like I want to find the source material of of the story about Thoreau causing this fire to see if this is just lifted from whatever source JCB used. And I think that might quell some of my concerns with why he said Thoreau took out from his pocket a matchbook he bought at the local store earlier that day. That just seems like a excessive detail for whatever reason for this story. And then, like I said, Cody, I connected it to, he'd mentioned going to Walden Books to read the inspirational posters and write them. JCB went to Walden Books to write the inspirational books posters that he would then paste on his wall. So is that the connection why he mentioned the local store? Thoughts?
Your take on it was much more eloquent and thoughtful than mine. My whole note on it just says, "He bought at a store earlier that day, question mark, question mark, question mark." My only comment was basically going to be the same as your first thought, which is, who cares? Who cares what earlier that day? Such a random thing to add.
Right.
Maybe it's all JCB really needing his spacing a certain way, just putting random details in to fill in.
Let's not discount that. That's not a crazy idea. Interesting. Good thought. Right, Bryn.
Here's my favorite takeaway from the chapter is the broken glass. So he talks about like learning to blow glass, all the broken glass he's talking about you would see in a studio. But then he also says the new colored glass was a smashing hit, led to stunning breakthroughs. Tiffany's breakthroughs continue to influence glass design. I am now a smashing success at failing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what to make of that.
Yeah. I flagged that one as well, but no solution.
Yeah, I'd picked up on the double use of smashing.
Smashing. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely think it's something. So I would just, go ahead.
It maybe ties into the other thing I flagged here. Visit a school when he was talking about the glass school. Visit a school and marvel at the amount of broken and discarded glass. Hulk smash. Oh. Hulk smash.
So where does he say, okay, so marvel, and then what does he say about becoming like the inadvertent villain? Let me find that line.
Good point.
He uses the phrase public enemy number one. That's what you're talking about.
Accidental villain and local public enemy number one. Would the Hulk be an accidental villain? Does he accidentally turn into the Hulk? I don't know anything about comics.
Yeah. Yes. Interesting.
That's a good call with Marvel. I like that because do have the other like comic-y connections.
And I don't think I have it here, unfortunately, but throughout the chapter I was thinking, because it's a mention of glass, the other treasure that we have is George Washington's jelly glass. And unfortunately or fortunately, that's the chapter that I think is the superhero chapter. I mean, I don't necessarily think it is, but I've made that connection before, that it's like a lot of superhero connections in that chapter potentially. So is this a nod to that chapter, that we're thinking of Marvel, we're thinking of Hulk smashing? You're right that he couldn't necessarily control that, or we're just going down the silliest rabbit hole ever.
I just wish that we've been keeping a list of chapters that we think tie together.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, seeing what's left, or like, does it all perfectly match up? Like, I think that would be worthy of us to see, like, as we keep pairing these up.
All right.
What are we left with?
Chapter connection to 17. At least we have it for this chapter. We can go back.
Wait, that was chapter 17?
The George Washington jelly class.
So what was the other thing
Is
I said
that
was chapter
the
17?
Zero
Zero
sum.
sum. Zero sum, you guys. Okay,
Solved.
that's for sure. Those are for sure. And that really makes me feel like very confident that these are intended to be paired then, right? That's crazy. It is.
I mean, I'm making a lot of connections, but he does say Spidey sense, which is a Spider-Man reference.
And Alfred Pennyworth is a Batman reference.
But that is DC.
So what chapter does he say Spidey sense? And then what is the chapter where he talks about the spider webs, remember?
I don't remember.
Is that the same chapter or different ones?
Spidey sense is in the introduction, not in the chapter. The spider webs is about confirmation bias. That chapter 8 or 7. I don't remember. I'll have to consult my table of contents. Anyway, food for thought. Good live analysis.
Oh, that's more than food for thought. I think that's wild that those are both. The fact that zero sum was also a tie there.
Confirmation bias is chapter 9. The golden chalice. That was the one that had the spider webs.
Man, I wish we would have started that from the beginning. We'll have to retroactively.
Third read through.
Yeah.
Cody, I guess it's your turn.
Very beginning of the chapter, he's talking about the United States of America and the society advancing discoveries therein. And he says, medical breakthroughs, space travel, the internet, and a myriad of other society advancing discoveries. I feel like there's a lot of talk of space travel adjacent things in the book, and a lot of talk about internet adjacent things in the book. So it's making me wonder how medical breakthroughs got to be head of that list. If that's just, I mean, it makes sense by itself, but it also feels like, are we missing some nods to medical breakthroughs throughout the book? Also could tie into your superhero theory, because that's how a lot of superhero origin stories, right?
I could be making this up, but I think in the Roman/Greek mythology section, isn't there a discussion of the snake wrapped around the stick, like the medicine symbol?
That does sound familiar, yeah.
I think that there's something in there. Not that that's going to be talking about a medical breakthrough, but that would be the connection to medicine that I can think of off the top of my head. But that's a good flag there, Cody, that it's like he would talk about other things he's talking about in the rest of the book. How about the Wilma Rudolph? That wasn't a medical breakthrough. That was more of a miracle. They tried to treat her polio, right? Gave her those metal braces, but that, I don't know if that was really the cure.
That's a good thought, Cody.
All right. I'm just going to steal the Thoreau quote. I'll come back to that. Sorry. Someone else could take it. His moral compass was strong. I'm on the wrong page of the book right now. His moral compass was strong. So I like the compass connection. Even though that would be a fitting of a description of a person as well. But Is that just forced in there to bring up a compass reference? I don't know.
I think so, especially with the roses later on, a compass rose.
Mm.
I am all on board.
Okay. Bryn.
Let's see. I'll talk about color. So, of course, we have the blue and pink flowers that are highlighted, but then I thought it was also very interesting that he referred to the fire as red and orange flames.
Mm.
It seemed like there needed to be an emphasis on the color there.
Red and orange. I don't feel like we have a lot of orange connections generally.
No.
I have to ask Matthew Hobbies. He has a full list of all color connections.
We do have orange on the front of the book with the X. It is one of the quadrants of the X. Is orange an Olympic ring color? I don't think so.
No.
I got one I want to add in that I know is nothing, or I shouldn't say I know is nothing, but I don't believe is anything as of separation of part 1 and part 2. I remember looking into the word sleek from Past and Future Box pretty extensively at one point because JCB used the word sleek a couple of times. And I remember thinking glass history or glass details of glass just seems so random for him to have honed in on. And I totally forgot about all of the glass talk and history of glass talk in this chapter. So it reminded me of that. I went, huh, that was more, that was less strange than I thought it was. But ultimately, I think part 1 and part 2 are separate. So
Right.
maybe it could be one of those things though where he had it in his mind from part 1 when he wrote part 2.
All right.
Blake's big quote.
2 original pages of Henry David Thoreau's journal are included in our treasure. These pages, written in 1851, carry with them some historical significance. Below is one quote from them. The art of life, how to live, how to get the most of life, how to extract its honey from the flower of the world. This is my everyday business. I am like the bee searching the livelong day for the sweets of nature. A nice connection back to bee on a pistol that we see earlier in the book. Your belly's full of excitement, like a bee landing on a pistol. Anyway, I still don't know what to do with the bee on the pistol, but there's got to be some flower connections here or the bee connection somehow, even though it's kind of intermittent throughout the book, I would say.
Yeah, that it definitely has to go back and tie to be on a pistol.
I had that one also written down, but I thought Blake will cover this one.
I got you.
Let's see. I wrote scores on a report card because wouldn't you say grades? Scores is an odd word to use, and it seemed like maybe it could have something to do with like the basketball scores. And then I also thought, well, what about like a music score? So I'm just kind of going off the rails here, but like why the word scores when it very much feels like it should be
That's when he's talking
grades.
About him being his worth being linked to grades from his parents' eyes. Okay.
Right.
Huh. Okay, I like that being flagged.
I had Tiffany lamps lit up government buildings in the White House. Lewis's glass vases were quickly considered some of the world's most charming pieces of functional art. I thought charming was a strange word choice there.
Interesting.
Charming pieces of functional art. I feel like I feel like there's a lot of different words I would have picked before charming. I know we've talked before about like the fairy tale stuff. Okay. So maybe a little Prince Charming reference.
Magical, nice. Something magical. Well, I'll tack on to that I just thought was kind of interesting. But the White House talk commissioned him to decorate the White House. because we did have the mention of the White House Historical Archives or something specific to doing more research if you wanted to with that White House connection.
He does say White House twice. I think he's pretty much talking about the same thing, but he does mention it twice.
Yeah. Right. Which, I mean, it would be a very significant career achievement, so I can totally see why it's included, but it did seem potentially notable just to have another White House call out in the book.
All right. I will flag Thoreau was a bit rough around the edges. Is that a hint to use all the borders in the book for all the images?
I will say, I was reading Pokemon chapter again today, and I was like looking at that Fabergé frog image where it has the rips on the side.
Yeah.
And I was like, you guys, it's gonna be insane if that's nothing. I'm 100% these are something.
I mean, the image in the Thoreau chapter, which we will cover in a bit here, the flaming trees, right? That one is like explicitly ripped full page down, and I don't know why necessarily. I think that's kind of a unique vertical rip. So if we take the hints that we get for finding those symbols on the magnifying glass that seemed prominent in the chapter, is rough around the edges being one hint to that. Can we find more that would indicate that this particular rip is of importance, or is it again just a stock image that's being used? I don't know, but I did want to say rough around the edges seemed cool.
I had enameled glass pieces such as our iris vase were first exhibited by Tiffany in 1900 in Paris. Because everything leads back to Paris or St. Louis.
Yeah. Two cultural hubs of the world. Here's a favorite of mine. I've continued to amass a long list of failures for my physics bucket. Thank you very much.
Nice. Nice. Right. I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the Thoreau fire picture, if that's all right. And this again is a Dr. R squared special, where he had pointed out some arrows on this fire image. And again, you can kind of see the ripped edges that I'm talking about are completely along the entirety of the page. I think Dr. R squared had talked about an arrow here, this weird little M. And then I think even more interesting, he circled a couple more here. But even more interestingly, like when you zoom in, a couple of these, they seem to be almost like pencil drawn arrows. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Here and here. So just worth coming back to because we're covering the chapter here. And at the bottom is this like another fish. Is this the little Wenjo rune, which means joy? Are those purposely added in to this image for some reason? Food for thought.
Sometimes this all just feels so overwhelming.
Sometimes.
All the time.
I had Thoreau, who later became a talisman proponent of woodland nature. Talisman jumped out at me, especially in a book full of ornate jewelry.
Interesting.
Thoreau believed every human was divine because of the poem. Here lies a joy divine.
A joy divine. Here lies every human. We just swap words in. Okay, no, that's a That's a good catch. That's an interesting idea, actually. I'll think about that more. Okay. I also have another image to share with you guys. Maybe. Here I did a comparison between the opening cover, like title page image of the journal, which is shown here on the left.
Nice.
And the journal image that's in the actual treasure item that's shown. And you can see that by my investigation, I've looked at this quite a bit. There's no difference between the two other than the title page image is zoomed in a bit. I can orient you with some certain landmarks following the arrows here and here. And then at the bottom, you can see there's more text in the actual journal page than is on the zoomed in image.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
No problem. And then I will mention that Ragnar of Obsidian, one of my friends on Discord, they had mentioned that there's 24 lines of full text that were chosen for the title page image. Would that have any sort of significance? So just something to flag there of interest of was it just stylistic choice or a strategic choice? Something to keep in mind. But I didn't see any modifications.
Cody.
I think I just have one more, which is I'm going to read a little bit more just to set the stage here.
Mm-hmm.
History tells us that Henry David Thoreau was a bit rough around the edges. He didn't exude a lot of joy. He was quirky, somewhat taciturn man who knew 6 languages and played the flute.
Okay, so
who knew 6 languages and played the flute. Just throwing the played the flute in there. Maybe that was a huge part of his life, but especially when I had I always think about the Pied Piper reference in the book.
Nice.
So that feels like, I don't know, that feels very pointing to the same spot that the Pied Piper reference would be.
And there was something last week, I feel like we've been talking about the Pied Piper a lot recently. So there's got to be a few things.
I think Cody
that align with
missed the
that.
Pied Piper episode. When you were gone, I think that was the
Okay.
chapter that had the Pied Piper.
Dang it. It's one of that's my bee on a pistol.
Yes. 100 hungry hamsters. Pied Piper played the flute. Thoreau played the flute. Could be a Star Trek reference too. Card plays the flute.
The flute? We had a new person start at work last week, and we new people always have to say some fun facts. And to the whole company, was like, "I love Star Trek." And he like listed off like 3 of his favorite seasons. So, anyways, I have a Star Trek reference in my back pocket if we need any Star Trek help.
Awesome. Played the flute. His moral compass was strong, and his feelings about social equality were ahead of their time.
But most importantly, he played the flute.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I like that. Bit reference. Oh, escape hatches. And I don't remember what the context is here. I apologize. But escape hatches. Hatches caught my eye. If we're thinking about a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, a hatching. Did he just throw that in there for fun? I don't know. I also don't have the full context. I apologize. We'll call it a flake.
I'll end with my last theme here, which is Hand's theme. Held in high regard, as much as we applaud achievement, I studied hard, earned good grades, and received applause for it. So maybe the applause in both instances is what's more notable here. But you would applaud with your hands.
Yes.
It's gonna be something.
Way to end strong.
Well, we end with our worst ones. We go from nuggets to flakes to dust.
2 heart references: wholehearted embrace, special place in his heart. Kind of near each other. Unwind this riddle was another quote in this chapter.
Oh.
Unwind this
What was-
riddle.
We had winding and let me find it in the other chapter.
If you had a winding reference, you should have caught that.
Unwind. Oh no.
It would have
Due to the
been-
circumstances out of her control, the direction of Jackie Onassis' life was winding. Is that it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. That's why I couldn't find it. Winding. It was twice.
Can you find the reference to unwind this riddle, Cody, and read some text before or after it? Sorry.
Lewis created the Tiffany Glass and Design Company and hired expert chemists to help unwind this riddle. For the next 8 years, Lewis and his team of scientists experimented and failed over and over and over again.
Okay. Flick. The last one I'll do is one glaring issue. And that's followed by a sun-parched blade of grass. So, a reference to the sun, a reference to light as being glaring, and the sun-parched blade of grass. Flake. Dust. I don't know what to make of that other than I want to flag it because it's a sun reference. Right. I think that's, also the first quote in the book, and I'll do a warning of the usage of AI. The first quote in the book is by C.S. Lewis. I did some research into that, and that supposedly is misattributed to C.S. Lewis. Then I was like, ooh, maybe the other one is also misattributed. So I asked Google, I was like, is the Albert Einstein quote, I think for months and years misattributed? And they're like, yes, that also does not have evidence. But then I did further research and found it clearly has evidence in written material that Albert Einstein said that. So don't always take the first AI answer as being truthful.
We learned that from the cryptogram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
AI would tell you that cryptogram meant anything.
All right. I think that's the episode.
Go
ahead.
I just want to quickly say, I do think with the winding, I do think that could be potential that it's, what would it be, a homograph with wind, wind and wind, just because we had like a couple wind mentions throughout the book as well. So I don't know, maybe it's something to keep an eye on. Okay, that's all.
I like that. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Sorry we did not keep it under 2 hours. Hooray for people that have to drive to work a long time. They get a full episode. All right. Running out of steam here. Sorry everybody, but we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Searching for clues, let's find you. Left and